Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, 'cause you're awesome. Happy birthday to you.
40s? How about further than that back?
What are we talking
No,
about?
I was.
You were born in the 30s.
I was 6. Yeah,
What year were you born?
34.
34. So
Yes,
you
yes.
were, I wasn't suggesting
And
you were.
somewhere, yeah, about that, I guess. I remember the times when, with the war going on, that we had to do all of the food and things.
Like what? What'd you have to do?
I can't think of the words because this old man doesn't remember words all the time,
That's
but.
okay.
But it was, geez.
You had the ration?
Rations. We had to ration so many things, and had food stamps actually for certain foods, so you could only get so much a month, that kind of thing. I do remember that part.
How did your
In the
parents
house.
deal with that way back then?
They dealt with it. You know, it wasn't any question about it or anything. Nothing. Everybody was on board, as far as I could tell, and everything remembered. That you know, they did what they had to do because it was a war, and you know, had people working for the defense or for contractors building war machines or whatever, you know, so that everybody was employed, and so that regard the economy was growing and doing good because of the war. But that's a bad way to increase the economy, but that did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, you know, people of my parents and everything were in a category of people that a lot of them didn't maybe have cars. You worked hard and you got by. One Christmas, I remember people bringing gifts to us kids because my parents didn't have any money. So we had hard times. You know, my parents had 8 kids, but as far as kids were concerned, we had anything we needed.
That's all you knew.
Yeah. Played outside most of the time and everything. I remember things like gathering the leaves. Dad gathered the leaves in a big pile to get rid of them. Then we kids would tear it up, and he'd have to start over again. But yeah, we lived just off of a main street. Our street was called Garfield, and the 10th Street was just down half a block from where we lived. So we had dogs. I remember different dogs we had. Either they ran away. My favorite dog ran over by a car and killed, those kind of things. But that's the kind of childhood I remember. We had a school about a half a block or a block from where we lived, and I went to kindergarten at that school, and then it was about a half a mile to the Catholic school where I went to grade school, and so I had my times there, fighting and carrying on. And I remember getting knocked out in the wintertime because we were sliding down a little mound at the school, nice little icy thing, and fell backwards and knocked myself out. Stuff like that happened.
That explains the way your brain works these days.
But I guess it's still working, so.
Did some of that early struggle then inform the level of motivation that you were able to muster in your own life when you got a little bit older?
I don't think so. I didn't like school. I was having too much fun outside. So in school, we had windows along the classrooms, and that's where I was looking all the time. And my teachers tore their hair out a little bit, and I had my parents come up and talk to them about me. Threatened to hold me back in the first grade. They never did, but I was told that. I think my senior year in high school, I'm not sure if it was senior or freshman, they wanted to, oh no, it was 8th grade. They were going to hold me back again. So I was not a good student, to put it mildly. I was a terrible student. And that kind of went on through high school. So after I got out of high school, my dad worked for the Santa Fe Railroad, and he got me a job through an event. He was having issues, mail issues, and he was in the hospital. And one of his roommates at the hospital was the superintendent of the district for the railroad. And so through that, he got me a job in the district covered between Kansas City and Emporia, Kansas type of thing. And he started me out working in the ticket office, and I was terrible at it. So then I was able to transfer there over to a freight department. And there I would go out in the railroad tracks in the field, and when the trains came in, I would have to write down the numbers, car numbers, boxcar numbers and everything as they were coming through. And then that was compared with billing information back in the office. And that was my job, going back and forth, that kind of thing. Anyway, I wasn't happy with that either, but it was a job. So the Santa Fe had a deal where they would pretty much take care of the veterans and everything. And through that, I don't remember exactly the details of it, but up some period in there, working for the railroad, I got married.
Oh, there's that.
There's that. This was, after high school, and trying to figure out what I wanted at that point, what I wanted to do with my life and how to survive. And of course, the Santa Fe was a good job, and if I went into the service, I could get back with the Santa Fe for sure. They'd bring me right back in. And but things aren't working out here in my mind, because
it's been a while.
That was, I wasn't married then yet. So then I joined the service and went into the Navy for 4 years. Total period was 6 years. I had 2 years of inactive duty. So then after that, then I came back, and here again, I'm at a stopping point in my life where, what am I going to do now? I did go back to work then for the Santa Fe, and at that time I decided to try to go back to school. Somewhere before that time, before I went to the Navy, I went 1 year of college, and my sister helped pay my tuition to go to school, to college. And I went to a school called Rockhurst College. It was a Jesuits college in Kansas City. And I went in with a buddy of mine from school, from high school. And I don't know how he did in school, but I did pretty badly. And I was working part-time to help pay my living expenses and stuff. Basically, I flunked out. And I failed a few courses there. So school was not working out. That's when I decided to go into the service and figure out the service grew me up. I mean, I matured, let's say, through the service, 4 years with the Navy. And so when I came back out, I had a whole different attitude that I had to get through school one way or the other. And I didn't make it easy on myself because I chose engineering. that came out of the service also. I was an electrician in the service and everything, and built up. But when I got out, I couldn't get a job with the unions, through the unions as an electrician, because you had to know somebody or you had to be a relative. The unions were pretty strong. Then I went to school and said, well, I can't do this. And I remember the orientation. I still remember the orientation for going into college at that time. And the instructor, or the guy that was taking care of the orientation, said, if you think you want to be an electrician, you're in the wrong place. And so that's how I started back into going to college and got married then and everything. During
Talk about
that
meeting Marge, and then how that all fleshed out.
there was a Catholic young people's organization in Topeka, Kansas, and at that time, I think it was associated with the Knights of Columbus, but I'm not sure. At any rate, my dad was a Grand Knight for the Knights of Columbus, and at any rate, as a part of that, they had a big hall where the young people could go to dances, maybe once a month or something. And I met my Marge at that time. The funny thing was happening. I was working for the railroad. The railroad, the station was about a mile and a half away from where my folks lived. I did have a car when I got out of service. I bought a '57 Dodge near the end of my service time. So I had a car, but I didn't have the money to pay for insurance for a little bit. And so I parked the car, so I was walking. And actually, Marge lived with some other girl, but they were in an house apartment, sort of halfway between my folks' and the station, so I'd stop off there. But anyway, I met her at one of the dances, and that's how things started. But initially, I didn't have the car, but I'd sneak the car out without any insurance on it and do something with her. So anyway, that led up, maybe, I don't know, we went together, I don't remember now, I'd guess about a year, and got engaged and got married.
So then, how long after that did you move to Northeast Ohio?
When I graduated, I got a job. When I graduated, there was any number of companies interviewing for hiring. It was an open market for everybody. One of the things that happened when I was working for the railroad, I was working in a town called Emporia, Kansas. So I was renting an apartment in a building with a number of retirees. And through one of those retirees telling me that the government work had some good benefits, steady work, et cetera, that appealed to me. And so then when I graduated and was interviewing, and at that time NASA was the place, you know. So I interviewed and was hired through that interview for working at NASA Lewis Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio.
What were your initial impressions? I know that maybe it was Larry that was still a baby, or maybe Steve when you moved to Cleveland.
Oh, when we moved to Cleveland, Larry was very real. Maybe couldn't have been a couple of years, and before when we left Topeka, Kansas, Monica was. I'm trying to remember now. Monica was born, so we had 2 kids, and I had, at that time, I had traded in my fancy 4-door Dodge for a Volkswagen. One of the silliest things I think I ever did, but I was looking for getting good gas mileage. So I got a little Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle, and that's how we traveled from Topeka to Cleveland. And at that time, when I got to Cleveland, newspapers were on strike in Cleveland. So it was tough trying to figure out how to find a place to stay and everything. But so I went to the NASA Lewis, and they had a bulletin board, and there was an advertisement for rent in Avon Lake. And that's how we got started from there, et cetera, with different places.
What were some of your earliest memories of Cleveland? I know that was during a turbulent time in the 60s. I think it was either the Glenville or the Huff riots happened not too long after you arrived, if I'm not mistaken.
It was right about that time that went on, that the riots.
Which one, the Huff?
Huff, yeah.
Talk about that for a second. What are your memories about that?
I'll tell you the truth, you know, it's like there's a cultural difference still between the west side and the east side. And it is a fact that, you know, the west side of the city is mostly white. And at that time I was not too much aware of the riots that were going on. I mean, I was aware of them, but I wasn't involved with it.